And then you get, and the other thing was that I was thinking, you know, the verse that says, like I say, I don't want to misquote again, but the verse that says about that there are some verses that are clear, there's some verses that are tough, I think, and there are some verses that only Allah will know. And now I know I've heard Muslims slightly defend it by saying no, scholars can understand it, but when you actually translate that and put the punctuation marks in, it does say only Allah.
Yes.
So I just think to myself, why? And it does go on to say that people with an evil heart or something heart will find these verses to bring things against the Quran. So I'm thinking to myself, why would I release a verse if I know I'm not God, and I know it's hard to think about, I don't want to blaspheme, but I'm just thinking if the Almighty God was to write a verse, doesn't say how many, could be just one, we don't know, but a verse that no one can ever know, and it could be turned against you, not you, against the Quran, then that just doesn't make sense to me, but I accept that I am a man.
Sure.
And not God.
But if you were to ponder on this, these are the two types of verses in the Quran, ayat muhkamat and mutashabihat. These mutashabihat, they're like very similar or ambiguous. There are many things of the unseen, for example, that we cannot comprehend. You cannot comprehend the very nature of paradise and hellfire. The only thing that you can comprehend is by a light comparison on this earth, that what you're familiar with, like the foods the Quran describes that you'll be eating in paradise. There's no way you can comprehend it unless you actually go there and so on. So the true meaning of what they are really is only known to God, not known to you, because you haven't been there, you haven't understood the nature of it.
I don't believe it's that verse that he's talking about.
No, I'm just giving you an example of
and I agree with that.
Knowledge of the unseen. Some of the things when God does describe them, you just believe that yes, there will be things like that.
Yeah.
No eyes have seen, no ears have heard, no one has tasted them, but things do exist. So the true meaning of these only known to God. But we will, of course, some of these things we will appreciate it and understand when we get there.
Yeah.
There are other categories of what we call this mutashabihat verses, where because of these are totally not comprehensible by our human intellect at this age, but God informs us that they do exist and this will happen. That's why we believe in them without questioning the modality of it. For example, we believe God has a throne. Yeah, and we say he is istawa al-arsh, like he is conquered over the throne, rise over the throne. Some people might literally think he's actually physically sitting on the throne, but your mind cannot comprehend that, because the throne, God is independent of the throne. He is independent of any of the creation. So how do we understand these concepts of relating to very God and in relation to things that he described of this nature? Your mind can only understand a little bit of it, but not fully grasp. So the modality, when we say the modality of these things, we won't understand
I understand
and comprehend. So these things, the true meanings are known to God alone. Yeah?
And you honestly believe that when he talks about these verses in the Quran that only he will know, you think that's what he's on about? I mean, I look at it like that.
I'll give you a particular way of thinking. Do you think the finite mind can comprehend the infinite in its entirety?
No, I agree with all that.
Right. So when God describes something about himself, we can understand the concept. But to comprehend it in its entirety will be very difficult.
I'm with you 100%, and I see that. I just don't connect that verse. I think that's something that we would accept without that verse. That there are no one can know God. We can, whatever he reveals to us, whatever we read about him, I agree with what you're saying, it is something that, until the day we're there, God willing, that we know.
To give you a particular example, again,
about being complicated, I don't
it doesn't say complicated, it says there are verses which are clear, and there are verses which are mutashabihat, okay? They are similar in some ways. The true meaning is only for those mutashabihat known by God. And the knowledgeable persons, they say that we believe this all from God, okay? This is what they are from. To give you an example of this, say when the Quran says لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, there is nothing whatsoever like the likeness of God. He's so unique.
I agree with you.
Now, and yet God describes to us that He's a Sami' and al-Basir. He's the one who sees and the one who hears. Now, to understand and comprehend that fully, and the true meaning of what it really is, I mean, it's beyond our full comprehension.
I'll look at that verse again with that mindset.
What we can understand is, yes, even though God is totally unlike us, still He sees and He hears. We don't need to now picture like the created forms of the things that acquire vision and acquire the hearing. You don't need to have an eye to see. There are things without an eye, but they can still see, for example. The things without an ear, they can still... I mean, your mobile phones that you use, it doesn't really have eyes, but it still can take pictures, it can see. So, just thinking literally like God has vision capacity like us will be a mistake. Okay? So the true meaning of what God is intending on this is only known to God, because that is His nature. That is His eternal nature, that we as a finite individual cannot comprehend the infinite. But we can accept that yes, we affirm this is the truth.
Maybe, like I say, I'll read that verse with that thought now and see how it means to me. I mean, last time I was here I was given a Quran, and I do look at it, and I'm definitely not trying to find, I don't want to find anything to hate. See, the verses I'm bringing up, I don't think you've probably heard a Christian try and bring them up as that sort of reason. And if I bring a list, we can do things in whatever order you want, whether you want to first talk about my scripture, then about yours, then about the concept of 3 in 1, how I understand it, things like that. We can do all that. The other sort of verses that get to it, they're all quite similar. The royal we side of things, there's lots of things about that. And what was the other main one? I can't remember now, but I've got them written down, and like I say, they're all reasonably things that just need explaining. But the royal we one, I really struggle with that. And maybe if I bring up a few examples, you can try and point out to me what they are. I mean, it's helpful. Like I say, I totally saw I don't want to keep saying that verse because people bring it up terribly, but the first one I talked about. I fell hook, line and sinker into that. I can see it. There's a process you're going through, and because that process is written, and because the man and the woman both know the Quran, then she realises she's on that process. So like I say, I think it would mean so much more when you now reach the last step than if somebody just physically hit you. Because like I say, there's nasty people everywhere in the world. So I grasped it. I thought that was so much. But the one you're saying about the different verses, and now I am seeing it in a different light. But like I say, I think I'll have to read that one and listen, maybe bring a few more to you.
Yeah, so there are various categories of the mutashabihat verses. For example, when God says, prescribe punishment for something like this, categorically clear, you can't interpret different ways. When God says He is one, don't say 3, categorically. But other things which are described in a way, there is room for interpretation. Okay, room for interpretation. So there are scholars who will actually tell you which verses falls under the unclear verses and why they do fall under unclear verses. So who goes after those unclear verses? The Quran actually describes who this verse. Those only who have a disease in their heart, they run. They're looking for this. The crooked hearts. They're after these things. So we know that. Okay, some people are not interested in clear, unambiguous guidance. They're only after something that they want to find something and say maybe it means this and maybe it means that.
I mean, then there's obviously, I don't like even bringing him up because I don't agree with a lot of what he says or anything, and I only really found.
Maybe you need to speak to him face to face again.
No, I'm about a real anti-Islamic person. I got onto it by mistake after watching one of not Ali Dawa. No. What's the large guy?
The taller guy.
Yeah.
Muhammad Hijab.
Yeah, I was watching their video they put out and then that leads you on the thing to other videos, doesn't it, on YouTube and other videos, Anyway, so I watched one with Christian Prince, and I've watched a few since. I've watched quite a few, and I do feel that it doesn't wash me, some of it. But this one, there was one, and the man, he seemed so genuine. I mean, it could have been a setup. You don't know these things. Because he came on as a Muslim, and within about 30 minutes, he changed his mind. And he almost supported the Trinity within Islam. Everything Christian Prince said, he sort of like went along with, and, but he did strike a chord with me, I'll be honest with you. So I'll just note down a few things, and whenever we're ready, we can talk about them sensibly.
Yeah. Now, this particular individual has been, making a lot of noise in the internet.
Yeah.
But he's been now adequately being responded. You'll see there's a YouTube channel you should watch called Farid Response, Farid, Farid Response, and he's putting up, short videos showing the double standards, the hypocrisies and lies specifically, because the way this particular individual CP was dealing with people in his show, because he's in control. He mutes them, he controls them, and he deals with people who don't even know what is being said. So
the last one I watched was an imam, a sheikh rather, forget his name, and he was trying to debate him over the women's ribs and the men's backbone. And like you say, he kept cutting him off. And but he eventually got his word across. And what he said to it was, see, it almost gave Christian Prince ammunition, because he then parroted something. But he was saying that all of the hadiths that he was quoting very close to the time of the Quran and that, and it was about the fact that science had physically changed since then. So now they're trying to interpret these differences. It's really almost like